Hello.
Good morning.
The sun's too bright.
We'll wait for a few more folks to show up. While we're getting ready, if you guys would please pull out the quiz that you guys submitted last week. Because after we talk about the AP exam, I want to go over the answers for that. Hey, Quinn, we're just waiting for a few more folks to arrive. Okay, well, I'm going to call this a quorum, and why don't we get started? Good morning, everybody. Did anybody do anything interesting this weekend that was legal?
No.
Only things that were illegal, Quinn?
No, just nothing at all.
I know. Yeah. About a week ago during spring break, Mrs. Pursley and I had to move 15 cubic yards of mulch. That's a lot of mulch. And I realized
that. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, what I should have done, well, I know that Carter wouldn't volunteer if he's done it. I was going to pay like 10 or 15 bucks an hour and send an email out to my students, see anybody would come out here to do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have done it, Carter? Now you know how hard it is.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't that hard. All you got to do is get a box cutter and just cut them all open, and then form.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this was a, I guess you would call it a tractor trailer that dumped 15 cubic yards.
Okay. So you just had to. Okay. So
It was a big, huge mountain, right?
Okay.
You know.
We had like a big pile of like river rock we put in our backyard, like around our fire pit this week.
Yeah.
So we did something like that, but probably not as much as.
Oh no, it was huge. Yeah, it was pretty huge. So, yeah. So I probably should have hired somebody to do that, but instead, Mrs. Pursley and I did it basically from sunrise, finished finally at sunset. So, all right. Well, let's jump into talking about the AP exam. Let me go to, let's see. Okay, you should see the Word document that I sent out on Friday. And you can see that, well, the first thing, just describing the invite. Did anybody watch the video of the guy who's in charge of AP explaining what their thinking was?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's his first bullet right here. And if you get a chance, it's pretty interesting. It's about 45 minutes long. And when you see this guy talk, my recommendation is you should either be working for a person like this, working with a person like this, or hire people like this guy. He really has his stuff together. I'm sure all the other teachers in the United States were impressed by his thinking and, frankly, his compassion about what was going on too. He's obviously, and he's been in charge of AP at College Board since the early aughts. So he's a pretty good guy. All right, so if you let me just kind of click on this for a second and see if I can get it to link. Yeah, and then let me show you guys. Okay, you should see my browser.
Yep.
Okay, and here's the list of all the exams and when they start. The first one is on 11 May, and it goes on through 22 May. And they're all 45 minutes long. There's, for us, that means there's one at 11, there's one at 1300, and one at 1500, at 3 o'clock. And for me personally, Thursday, May 14 May is my big day because chemistry is at 1 o'clock and physics is at 3 o'clock. So that's the schedule. And then if you scroll down, you can see some of the details on each exam. For example, here's AP Physics 1. If you click on this, it of course again shows you the times and the date, of course. And then it shows you that you have 25 minutes to do question 1, and about 15 minutes is what they recommend to do question 2. So if you add that up, 25 plus 15, that adds up to what, 40? Let's see, 25 plus 5, okay, that's 30. And then really 15 minutes, an additional 5 minutes to upload the response to question 2. So if I'm reading this right, you really have, unless there was a typo, it looks like you have 50 minutes. 25 minutes to do a problem, 5 minutes to upload it, and then 15 minutes and with another 5 minutes, so 30. So that looks about the time. You can see here are the questions. The first one's weighed about 60-40. So my guess is it's probably a 12-pointer and a 7-pointer. That would be about right. Those are the typical numbers that of question points values that we have in AP Physics. You can see that one is, like I've given you 12 pointers before, or you've seen them before, but I'll be giving you more here starting this week. And there's some qualitative and quantitative thinking has to be done. Here, this is a paragraph argument short answer. Generally what is expected is something that, when you do a coherent argument, is something similar to CER if it's explaining things. Scrolling down, you can see a little bit more of the type of these questions, and the quiz this week will be as best as I can do it, a replica of what I think the exam will look like. I'll give you two questions. One's 12 and one is 7. Let's see, 12 plus 7 is 14. Call that 20. So that's probably about the right value, and I'll probably give you 45 minutes to do it. So it'll be a PDF that then you have to take a photograph of your work and upload it into its learning. So we know that it's units 1 through 7. This week we finish up unit 8, which is unit 7, which is rotational motion. And then I recommend, or they recommend, you print out the AP Physics 1 formula sheet. Don't toggle back and forth because it takes too much time. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but of course you should have a calculator, a pencil, and a piece of paper. Before we go on to talk about, well, maybe we'll do it in the context of the quiz we took. But I'm going to show you some of the uploads that I got from you guys and from AP Chem, and then we'll have a discussion about what might be good formats, bad formats, etc., in terms of how to upload stuff. Let's see, let me go back to the Word document. Okay, you should see my Word document. I'll try to make it a little bigger so you can read it. All right, so I mentioned the video that if you get a chance, you ought to take a look at it. It really, really is interesting because this is really unprecedented. And to see the kind of thinking that the College Board used to create this exam is very interesting. He also talks a little bit about cheating. It's worth watching the video just to understand what kind of things are put in place to prevent cheating. Personally, I wouldn't cheat, not just because it's a character issue, but the only way you're going to cheat is to get help from somebody in the room or whatever, and you just don't have time to be distracted. They're also going to be creating some things so that that we don't know, so that they can understand if somebody's cheating. By the way, I will get a copy of all your work. I think on the 26th of May. They'll be sending all that to me. All right, so 2 FRQs. We already talked about the timing. We talked about the 2 questions. Let's see. It's going to be scored as usual with a bunch of readers that are both college professors and AP Physics teachers across the country. The only difference is it won't be done in person. They'll be doing it virtually. One other thing that will happen is each test will be graded twice. Anybody know why they're going to grade it twice? Why would they grade it twice? Usually just one grader grades it.
Else's work, maybe? I don't know.
Because so much depends on the question, right? You normally have 7 AP Physics free response questions, and I forget how many multiple choice, and 50? I can't remember. Instead, it's just these 2 questions. So missing 1 point could be a big deal for a student, right? So they want to make sure that they do the best job they can in terms of evaluating the tests. He also mentions in the video that there's about a 75% correlation to final scores based on the first 45 minutes of free response that students get. Is that perfect? No, 75% correlation, but it's not bad. And there you go. Anybody know why they're doing free response and not multiple choice? You guys are quiet. It's too easy to Google answers in multiple choice. All right, let's see. There is a makeup date. I would not bank on it. Again, the video, he talks about that a little bit. So what questions do you have for me? I have some additional stuff to pass out about it, but.
Backwards in like units, since we started with like unit 7, are we doing unit 6 and then unit 5, or?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, let me switch to. I want to go to my browser, but not this one. I want to go to this. Here we go. Okay, you should see my browser. It's on the website that's kind of like the master website for all the AP classes. Does everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you scroll down here and we'll go to physics, which is right here, right? And last week you guys did these 3 lessons. Remember, rotational, torque, and equilibrium, which is really statics. And then there was experimental design for statics. This week you have 1, 2, 3, 4 videos that I've assigned that are in the email that I sent out last night. So, and they wrap up rotational motion. And then after that, we switch to kinematics and dynamics. So we go from unit, whatever.
7.
Is that what it is? I can't remember. Is that what it is, 7? And then we shift to unit 1 and 2 to do kinematics, forces in equilibrium, which is the same thing as kinematics, meaning nothing's accelerating. And then some projectile motion. And it hasn't, let's see, that would be not this week, that is next week, along with 2 body problems, which is really dynamics. So and then as I look on after dynamics, it's linear momentum, and then there's some circular motion, and you can see that down there. Those are some of the ones that are going to be created this week that we'll be covering next week. So to answer your question, Carter, basically we're starting rotational motion, then we're jumping all the way to the beginning to talk about kinetics, dynamics, then we'll get into momentum, circular motion. I guess after that will be simple harmonic motion, etc. So my guess is these guys will be working to finish their lessons in time, or maybe well in advance of the exam, which is on, what is it, the 14th or whatever. Oops, chemistry. Can you guys see my browser? I'm now on It's Learning, or is it still stuck on?
It's on It's Learning.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, so if you go to AP Physics and resources, and review. That, of course, is the link to that website I just was at. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And then rotational motion, you'll see we did lessons 1 through 3 last week, which were pretty straightforward, I thought. And then I gave you a quiz, which you guys had to upload. That's what's right here. It was a non-time quiz, and it was pretty easy. This week, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 homework assignments that I plucked off of the videos that you guys will watch this week. So you have those, you can print them out and do your solutions on those. Again, I don't want those. I'll be adding a timed assessment either Thursday or Friday for you guys to take. It'll be 45 minutes. Is there would you rather take it? Well, you have 4 videos, so I guess I should do it on Fridays. Is there any particular time you guys want to take it? I pretty much have to time it so everybody takes it at the same time.
I don't know. Just, I guess.
Not too early, or early is great, or what do you guys think?
God,
Like 11 or noon sounds good.
please not early.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Not
like-
early. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I want to hear because I'm kind of a morning guy. All right. So 11 a.m. or I could do in the afternoon. It's not like your days are that fun right now, but you know what I mean? It's not like, oh my God, it's a Friday.
Yeah, 11's fine for me.
11's good.
Okay, let's do 11, and I'm gonna use some of the methods that Mr. Duran uses, and I'm talking to him a little bit later on. Anybody taking any online quizzes from him?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, he's kind of the high priest of its learning. So, all right. So, anyway, so that's your plan for this week. Let's see. That's kind of it for the exam. Oh, by the way, I am recording this, and I'll upload it to its learning, or the link to it to its learning for people who missed this meeting. A few folks are working. I think Nick Rucker is working this morning. Okay. Any other questions on the exam?
What do you think's going to be on it?
I can almost tell you exactly. If you'd like, I'll create a page to tell you what percentages of that will be on it. The answer is all 7 units will be on it, and I can even tell you what percentage of the exam will be made up of each unit. Right?
Mhm.
I can't tell you what specific problems they'll be, but I know how much of it will be kinematics. I know how much of it will be dynamics. I know how much will be rotational motion. Oh, by the way, as you work on rotational motion, you kind of realize that a rotational motion problem can nail a whole bunch of units, can it? Depending on how you're doing it, it can have circular motion. It certainly can have kinematics and dynamics. So it's not linear unless it's something tangential. So, but I'll tell you what, I'll send out a note on that so you see what the percentages are.
Cool.
All right. So that's the deal on the exam. Any other questions on the exam?
I got nothing.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Cool. All right. Hi, Betsy. I just told everybody I'm also recording this if you want to hear the details on the AP exam, and I'll be posting it on It's Learning, okay? I think she's on. Let me see. Yeah, she's just muted, or she's just getting on. So, all right. Let's shift over to, does everybody have their quiz that they took on Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so let me, oops, I guess I have to show the PowerPoint. Sure wish this thing would toggle back and forth without me having to. do this every time. Okay, you should see the quiz in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, before we get started, here's an interesting question. Here are some of the boundary conditions for the exam. Whatever you download the exam on, you have to upload it from that same device.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you go on your, laptop, seems like you guys have laptops or PCs, and then download the exam, and there's two options. One is that you can, type in all your answers. The other one is you can take a photo of something and upload it. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he even talks about, the chemistry students and maybe math or physics students might be more comfortable downloading or working their problem on a piece of paper and then photographing their work and uploading it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it has to be uploaded on whatever you download it. That doesn't mean you can't take your camera to take a picture of it. But if you downloaded it and you logged on your PC, it must be uploaded from the PC. So I don't know if that's a big deal to you. It wouldn't be for me, but some people. What's that?
Would you rather do a computer or phone?
Me personally?
Yeah.
This is just how I roll, but I really don't think there's a right answer. Okay. Me, I roll with laptops. I'm fast on laptops. I made all my millions off my laptop. I'm just very facile with my laptop. And so no way would I want to do, but that does limit me, but I'm not worried about it, in that I would totally do the problem on paper. That's me because of how I roll also. I would do it on paper. I would see if it's a PDF that I could print. If it's not, that's fine. I would just look at the problem on my laptop, and then I would solve the problem. I would not do it on engineering paper. I do it on white paper, and I'll show you why when you look at your quizzes. But again, this is just how I roll. I'd probably do white lined or something, maybe. But I haven't really thought it all through yet, or I might print out some of the AP sheets that are around that sometimes I use for AP exams, mostly for chemistry, with the lines that the AP sheet has. But I haven't really thought it through. But then I would take a picture of it, and then I would upload it. And then for me, it's pretty easy for me to go from my camera to my laptop to upload it and paste it into.
Like the camera on the laptop or the camera on a phone? Or...
I can do it pretty quickly from a phone. I trust my phone camera better than my laptop camera. But between now and then, I might practice my laptop camera. But you're going to see all kinds of different quality of photographs and different qualities in terms of handwriting and things like that. So, but that's how I would do it. I could totally see another student saying, screw that, Pursley's crazy. I don't roll that way. I'm going to do it on my phone, right? The person's very facile on their phone. They log on their phone, they see the questions, they solve it on paper, and then they take a photographic and upload it because that's how they roll. And I don't think anything's wrong with that at all. Mine, and there's a lot of things that are right about because it's one less step, right? And know that they've created the test so that it should be easily viewed and understood on a smartphone. So, and, we can even practice that. In fact, there will be some practice sessions for us to learn how to download the exam, upload it, and make sure we know how to do it so we don't screw it up when we get our chance to do it on the 14th of May. So, Note that I did not say the third option, which I totally believe is going to happen like in AP US History or AP US Government or AP Lang or AP Lit. People are either going to, well, some people are going to download it onto their laptops and then they're going to type their little fingers off, right? And then upload it. Some people are going to download it on their laptop and then, and you guys are taking AP Lit, right? A lot of you guys are. They're going to download it on their laptops or their cell phones, and then they're going to write their answers because that's what they practice all year is handwriting their answers, right? And then they're going to upload that handwritten answer to back up to the College Board. You know, so I can see these going one way or the other. If I was taking AP Calculus BC, whoever's got your phone not on mute, maybe you should do it because I'm getting some feedback. Calculus BC or AB, if you're taking that, my guess is probably paper, right? I mean, how do you do an integral typing? You can, but not in 45 minutes. I know, I used to teach that course. It's hard to write those symbols for integrals. So, so let's look at these answers and then I'll show you some other people's responses from last week quizzes, AP Chem and AP Physics. Doesn't really matter whether or not the questions are right or wrong, but you'll see different qualities, okay? So this first one, which is a pulley system, this is pretty straightforward and pretty much everybody got it, that basically you just had to give me that the radius times the mass equals the radius times the mass. In other words, the two torques have to be equal and opposite to each other. One, of course, is a positive torque and the other is a negative torque. And I don't know if you can see my hands, but I'm doing the right-hand rule because that's just how I think about positive and negative torques. There you go. Any questions on that one? All right. So then the second one here, these are also in static equilibrium. Pretty much everybody got these right in that there was a couple of people that just circled the one that was in static equilibrium, but did not give me, you know, some numbers or some kind of math to explain it, so they didn't get the second point. And then it's interesting, look at the third one, which they actually define counterclockwise being positive. And that is when you're looking down on it. And if you have your hand and you do the right-hand rule, you'll say that, you'll see, of course, they're saying the positive direction is what would be positive for the right-hand rule as you look down on the disk. So for whatever that's worth, but you need to have that definition on this one. So acceleration, basically, what is this one? Is this where there's some friction? Yeah, there's some friction on the axle, right? So is it speeding up, staying the same, or slowing down? Somebody will have to unmute themselves to tell me. Is this thing speeding up, staying the same, or slowing down? Yeah, it's slowing down because of friction, right? So we know that it's going to be at some initial angular velocity, omega sub 0, they probably call it, or if they don't, that's what I would call it. And then, so what I know for sure is omega, it's got to be starting this way. Is omega positive or negative when it starts?
Pause.
Yeah, it's positive because it says that the initial counterclockwise angular velocity, W sub 0, is positive. So W sub 0 should be up here, right? And then we know it goes to 0, so it has to go down to 0 at time t equals t1. Then over here, how about acceleration? Somebody other than Carter, tell me about acceleration. Positive or negative? Is it changing? What's the story on that?
It should be negative.
Yeah, it should be negative. And in fact, you can see right here, I've drawn it so that it's negative because the darn thing's slowing down. It's negative acceleration. And of course, it stops at T1. And a lot of students drew it like this, and then they drew a vertical line right here and wrote T1. And that's correct, right? So then we've just talked about this. Note that I put omega sub 0 and T sub 1. And the reason why I did that is I don't know what the rubric would be, but if they gave me omega sub 0, which they did, it says it right somewhere. Here it is. Then I'm going to put it on the chart. And then down here, of course, they gave me T sub 1. So I'm putting that down there and I draw the line. So probably 80% of students got these two correct. A few people had alpha as positive, but of course that would mean that it's accelerating, and we know it's decelerating. Then the last one, it was very few people that got this correct. Theta, of course, its analog in linear land is X. And theta, of course, is, angular position. And we know that that theta is increasing in the positive direction because we know this thing is rotating in the positive direction. So you can't have something that's down here that's negative because it's been defined as counterclockwise, is going in a positive direction. The other thing that you know is that theta changes really, really fast at the beginning, and theta changes very, very little at the end. And in other words, the slope or derivative of this gets smaller and smaller as we get to t equals 1, at t sub 1. And of course, at t sub 1, theta, the thing stops, and then theta remains at whatever final position it's at. So that is the curve for theta. Any questions on that? Okay, cool. Then let me go to, let's see, I guess what I want to go to is this mess. See what I have. All right. All right. Okay, I think the way I'm going to do this, because of the awkwardness of this software, unless there's some way that I can show this. Let me see. All right. Can you see what I'm seeing, which is a Anna's response?
Yes.
Okay. This was pretty good, right? It's pretty easy, understood. She wrote big. It looks pretty good, right? By the way, I think one of you guys used some software to draw your answers actually on the quiz. Can you see my quiz right now? I don't know if it can toggle back and forth, or you're still stuck on the PDF.
Yeah.
You can't see the quiz?
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, one of you guys, I forget who it was, they graphically, they circled the right answer, and then they wrote with their mouse, or maybe they have a touchpad, maybe they have an iPad or something. They wrote the answers on here, and I'd like you not to do that. There was nothing wrong with that student's answers, but why do you think I would like you not to do that? Because you're not going to be allowed to do that on the test. Okay. All right. So you're either going to have to do handwriting or type into the exam software. All right. So that was pretty good. That one looks pretty good. So let's go to another. In fact, I'm just going to go, here's another piece of engineering paper. Let's see. This was an AP Chem one, and it's pretty clear that it was probably in the person's bedroom with most of the lights off. I think they used a flash on their camera. They have excellent handwriting. They have excellent, it's really, they used ink. And it was easy for me to grade, but I'd be a little worried about whether or not it'd be easy for some schmuck who's doing it in, you know, Anchorage, Alaska, or Phoenix, Arizona, wherever your grader is, right? This person probably would have increased their chances of getting a better score if it was a well-lighted room, right? So let's carry on. Let's look at another one. Let's see if I have some other engineering paper. Here's one. Here's engineering paper. This one's an AP Chem one. If you take a picture, make sure you take a picture of your entire quiz, right? So pretty good handwriting, and I was able to actually grade it, and I could tell that there was this sentence I could read because it didn't get cut off. But I would try to make sure that I can take a picture of the whole thing. Here's another one. I'm a little concerned about this one. I think this is an AP Chem one from last week. It's on engineering paper. The handwriting's not bad, but it's not very dark. The person who took this, they don't realize something, that if you are with cameras, real cameras, it's not the ones we have nowadays in the last 2-3 years. If you have backlight, whatever in the foreground suffers. Has everybody taken a picture with maybe not like a smartphone I have today, but like the one I had that I finally turned in a year ago? If I had to take pictures of you guys in your classroom, I had to absolutely make sure that there were no windows behind you, right? Because I would just see then a silhouette of Michaela Sims and a silhouette of Carter Bishop. You know, I wouldn't see your faces because it was backlit. This little shiny thing here is backlighting. And so what the camera does is it reduces its, I guess, precision or whatever the hell it is. And so this person's input is not going to be as easily read. Of course, your reader's going to do everything possible to make sure that they can do something with your vision, your visual, so that they can read it. But, you know, why make it harder for them than you want to? Let me ask you a question, because I have no idea. I'm not getting any nonverbal feedback. Is this helpful to you guys?
Yeah, it's helpful.
Okay. All right, here's another one. Really dark. This guy is a minimalist. He actually got all but one of the points right on this. He didn't support his thinking on this one. Very dark. You know, let's see. This one, I think I sent a note to them saying, dude, I just can't read it. They did really good. I mean, I was pretty good with this. I think I did a few things. I forget who this was.
Oh, that was me, Captain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Dave,
my bad.
well, no, that's that. But I was able to see it, and of course, you know what's going to happen is every grader is going to do everything they possibly can,
Yeah.
unless they're tired.
Right.
You know, right? So, and this is not. I'm not making fun of anybody, right? You know, just I was like, ooh, I just saved ones I thought were good examples. Here's another one. This is AP Chem. Dark room, engineering paper, whatever, you know. So my guess is what I'm going to want you guys to do, I'll think about it, but not to do your quiz on engineering paper starting this week, because I want you getting used to whatever it is that we're going to use, you know, on the 14th of May. All right, then let's see, what else? So those were folks that used engineering paper. Here's just a regular quiz that somebody, I guess it was Quinn, took a picture of. It was easy to grade. Yeah, no problem, so you can kind of use your judgment. Maybe you want to print it out if it has some kind of printing function. I have no idea, if it will. But we'll get a notion of that when they send us this kind of dry run for us to practice on. Let's see. Let me look at another one. Here's another one that was pretty clear. White paper. This is where I had this epiphany that engineering paper may not be the best thing for taking photos. This is really an amazing answer. I mostly want to use this for you guys and for the AP Chem guys, that simple is usually better. I showed you an example where a student only had like 4 lines and they got all but one of the points. This person is really good at math and explained the answers. They got all of the points, but there's no way you're going to have this much time, to do this on the exam. Let's see. Here's another one. A very common mistake is if your camera is backlit, and you don't use a flash, and I'm not telling you to use a flash or not, but one of the tricks is to take a picture so that your camera's shadow, and it looks like it's James or somebody under. I mean, James was obviously aware of that, so he put the shadow down here, where it still was easy to read. But that's something to keep in mind. Generally, what I do when I take photographs of stuff, like when I'm grading your quizzes, I do it in such a way that my camera's not backlit, because I have that, what is it, zip grade? Yeah, and I make sure that there's just natural light or the light on my desk shining down on it without any reflection, and it works pretty well. Let's see, where am I? Here's another one, kind of Shadowland. Again, it was gradable. I don't think a grader would have a problem with this, except for this one kind of mess down here. This was really challenging for me to read. Let's see. We've already looked at that one. See there. Okay, there's a couple more. Here's one where the student used, they had a touch screen, so they wrote with a stylus or their pen. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to do that. You might. But I wouldn't do my quizzes based on planning on that you're going to be able to use this software. You might, but I'm not sure. And this was a student who actually submitted a quiz hoping I wasn't looking at him. No answers. Right. So, oops. All right, so please don't do that. It's a real headache, by the way, every time I was sending an email to somebody when I'm home, to send an email to you and then maybe to copy your parents. And I had to do that for like 20 sophomores. It was just miserable for me. I mean, it just totally destroyed my Saturday morning. So I prefer not to have to do that. Okay, so what you should be able to see my original Word document up here. Does everybody see that? Somebody say yeah. You can? Good. All right. Then I don't have really anything else to communicate except hope you guys have a good week. If I have any news from our staff meeting, we have a staff meeting this afternoon at 1500. It's after the governor's thing this afternoon with Johnny Key. He's the head of the Arkansas Department of Education. For you guys, I can't remember who's on the phone, and if there's, of course, Quinn, you're on it, and there may be others that are athletes. Lance, what's his face, who's kind of the most powerful person in Arkansas sports at AAA, has not canceled sports yet, which is really weird. So we're all kind of collectively holding our breath. We don't know what that's all about. So, maybe we'll hear more about that in the next week or two.
I hope so.
Yeah. Me too. Any other questions?
Mm.
Oh,
Okay, then you guys have a good week. I will have a Zoom session, but it's mostly just to check in with you guys on Wednesday at 1400. And, you know, sometime later this week, I'll post your quiz. We agreed on 11 a.m. on Friday to do the quiz. And I'll do my darndest to make it 45 minutes long, and, you know, and you guys have to upload it. There we go.
Cool.
Okay. All right, you guys. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Cap.